Day 11.
We're about halfway through day 11 now, and chipping along quite well. We just climbed quite a big hill. It's cool. We're now in the Castilla y Leon region of Spain. We've crossed the border with La Rioja, and we've entered this new region. You can see immediately obvious that there's trees again. Very noticeable when you're walking along how the geography changes. Been having some interesting conversations this morning. One with a guy who's done well in his career and he's earning good money. He's not a native of Spain. One of the things we spoke about was kind of along the same lines as what I've said before, how life is a bit like the Camino, where you have to enjoy the journey, not the destination. So, you know, enjoying the moment. Sometimes it's like a lightning strike. You get this big zap of, wow, this view is absolutely stunning, or you see a tree in a certain light. It looks beautiful and you're totally in the moment. Other times you're just chipping along, it's not so pretty, but there might be something else keeping you in the moment, like pain, which is quite effective, as I'm sure our Italian friend who's walking barefoot will attest to. So that's like a bit of a golden oldie, nothing too revelationary about that piece of wisdom, but it's so true. Just enjoying the moment and not worrying so much about the destination, enjoying the process. The Camino really gets me thinking about that. It has a number of different facets, but one is procrastination. So I'm a pretty bad procrastinator, and a big reason I procrastinate is I make too big of a pile of things to do, and the mountain becomes too big and I don't bother trying to climb it. The Camino is really cool because it kind of breaks the 800 kilometers down into bite-sized pieces, and there's a whole bunch of people doing the same thing, and you think to yourself, okay, I mean, if I had to just start walking 800 kilometers, I would never start. But given there's this framework and each day it's a bite-sized chunk, it's absolutely incredible the amount of stuff you can get through. A book I'm reading said it this way: imagine you pictured all of the food that you and drink that you're gonna have for the rest of your life, and imagine it all piled up in one place. So mountains of meat, vegetables, legumes, hopefully, fruits, and huge tanks full of liquids. And you sat down and said to yourself, okay, I have to finish all of this before I die. And you think to yourself, well, I'm not even gonna start chewing on this hamburger, like this is just an impossible task. So it's kind of that rationality. Or irrationality. It's not sort of rational to be thinking about food in that way. And in a way, it's not even rational about thinking about the Camino in that way, even although we know the destination. It's just day after day, step after step, paso a paso, as we say in Spanish, step to step. And ultimately what that means is staying in the moment. Another interesting topic we've discussed a few times, it's come up a few times in conversations as well, is ego. Possibly ironic given that I'm walking along in the middle of a forest talking to a mobile phone and looking at myself in the screen. But be that as it may, let's delve deeper into this interesting topic. So one interesting thing I discovered is the Spanish word for selfish is egoísta. So it's interesting because, I mean, we have the word selfish, and then egoist kind of has a different connotation in English. So maybe slightly more arrogant or full of yourself. Whereas the Spanish seem to somehow put it in the same bucket in a sense, or derive it from the same thing, which I think is probably telling, because you know, when you're being selfish, you're thinking of yourself, and the ego is totally focused on the self or yourself. I made an interesting observation the other day of how the ego can really cause us to self-sabotage ourselves. One guy shared with me that he felt like because he'd done well in his career and he was earning good money, that people, you know, just think he's lucky, and that he, you know, somehow had it handed to him on a plate. But he shared that he had to work really, really hard for it. He was studying while he's working, etc., etc., etc. The unfortunate thing about the ego is that then when you're having a conversation about, you know, what you've done for work, you're kind of somehow forceful in the way you're describing it, and trying to express that it was really difficult and that you really had to work really hard to get it, and that ultimately that it was down to you. And then in doing so, the people around you feel not the greatest, because you're sort of in effect putting yourself high to express how much effort you put into it, and in doing so putting yourself above them. You know, they might earn half of what you earn. Luckily I don't earn anything at the moment, so I'm ego free, but you know, it automatically makes the conversation a bit awkward, and at the end of the day the people sort of like you less. Probably all of this seems fairly obvious to somebody who's well-rounded, social creature, but that probably excludes most engineers and rally drivers. So yeah, it just sort of interesting to follow that progression through, because then that person, his ego actually makes him an outcast, which then makes him feel bad, because people kind of are a bit weird and awkward around him. They're either going to be somewhat sycophantic, sucking up to him somehow, or her, or they're going to avoid the person because they feel belittled and inferior. We're walking through the trees today, as I said, and one of the interesting observations from a fellow pilgrim was that it somehow feels easier. The last few days walking through La Rioja, you could see the path stretching out almost to the horizon. It's quite intimidating, but when you're walking through the forest you can't see so far ahead, and somehow it breaks the Camino down into more bite-sized chunks. That's a good approach to life, and also to goal setting. When you have a big goal, you can break it down into bite-sized chunks. Not think so much about the big goal, the final destination, but just about each step along the way. And it's not so hot.
Tú coges el brazo, ¿vale? Lo estiras y empiezas el movimiento así, ¿vale? Como notando el feeling de la música, ¿vale?
Ahora vengo.
Y luego pones este,
Ahora
empiezas a calentarlo, ¿vale? Y arrancas.
Y el labio, el labio.
Y tienes que morrer así. Pero tienes que... Calientas, agarras y ya.
Hostia puta, eso es arte, ¿eh?
Ay, ay.
Santa